Hello, everyone. It is Sunday afternoon, and as always, just logging thoughts. I have no idea if these are getting through or anyone is watching all of these anymore, but just entering in the log where I'm at today. I hope you're well. Um, as I've been thinking throughout the last few days, I'm coming up on the 10th anniversary of my time at my current job, and it's one of the best jobs I've ever had. And I work as a project manager, building custom residential homes. And one of the interesting things about being a project manager is figuring out exactly how you want to do the job. And one point of acceptance I had to process was how information is received. The early years, I would constantly find myself frustrated, trying to point out attention to things, and felt like people weren't listening. And my boss pointed out, your job is not necessarily to get everything heard. Your job is just to deliver the information, and people will do with it as they please based on their needs and desires. And that was quite liberating. So. Um, as I'm speaking today, I should acknowledge I'm in no position to prescriptively, dictate what anyone should or shouldn't do. I'm just logging opportunities and vulnerabilities as I see them for the record. And part of why I'm bothering to do that, I'm in a better headspace about things now than I was a few weeks ago when certain things first came to light in the news, particularly with the Epstein matter. But my views haven't changed at all. And mm, chiefly my acknowledgement of what it's going to cost all of us, and probably me personally, to reject the evil we're dealing with right now. Namely, on my mind is I feel like if we don't do something soon, uh, the cost of dealing with this or letting this run amok any further is going to be the end of my life. And I'm to a place where I'm kind of okay with that, but I don't want that to be the case cavalierly. Like a Klingon, I want a good death. And what makes a death good is that it had a point and that it wasn't needless. So as I've been processing those things, I remember at the beginning of President Obama's administration, his chief of staff was Rahm Emanuel, and Rahm Emanuel was fond of quoting Martin Luther King, don't let a good crisis go to waste. And this was part of why they did the push towards healthcare. And as I reflect on those words, we're watching this administration implode on itself through terrible decision making. And we have a crisis that may be an opportunity for all of us if we play the hand correctly. But our playing the hand correctly would ask of us a very specific kind of personal sacrifice that I don't know any of us can prescribe for anyone else, but I just note that that may be the cost of maximizing the opportunity in front of us. On my mind is shame, public shaming. There's a lot of it going on around right now. And what's interesting with shaming is it is a completely natural human impulse. And it's interesting trying to figure out a way to constructively comment on something that is a natural human instinct, especially in a community. A community is bound together by values, and shaming is a reflex action, rejecting things that defy those values. But thinking as a project manager, one thing I am constantly concerned with is the balancing of short-term interest with long-term interest. Very often, I have to put aside what I want for the good of the team. My chief job as a project manager is to take care of my team, to make their life as successful as possible, because when the team succeeds, the project will succeed, and when the project succeeds, the client will be served. So everything on my mind during my daily existence is, what does the team need to get a win? And everything else will take care of itself. Between the war and the Epstein files, the president's supporters have never been more disillusioned with him. And they are at a point where he is shedding support faster than he can replenish it. And depending on what happens to that shedded support, we could change the face of this nation into something substantially better or substantially worse. And it is my suspicion that how we choose to engage or not engage with the act of shaming will play a decisive role in what kind of future we will have. Again, human nature, you have to respect that. One thing I try to keep in mind as a team leader is I try not to ask people to do things that are not in their natural skill set or inclination. And that means sometimes it has to happen, but if it has to happen, people intuitively understand that it's for a greater good. And I hope folks who do bother watching these things receive the words in the spirit in which they're intended. I love President Obama. I respect him so much. But I mentioned a few videos ago that I have had disagreements with the choices made by his administration. One of the most significant disagreements I had was over the use of drones in warfare. I wrote to him several times on the matter, and I'm still not over it. And my argument then, and my argument now, is that you cannot really win a sustainable victory or peace through air combat and the use of remote unmanned, attack drones. For every terrorist or insurgent you kill, my suspicion is that you radicalize that many more. Through stochastic terrorism, you terrorize everyone in the surrounding area where the drones are active. One of the most heartbreaking things I ever read was that in the parts of the world where the United States uses drones, people have become terrified of blue skies. And they only go outside to play on cloudy days because they know that's poor visibility for drones. And accepting that people in that part of the world are as human as I am, how could you not resent this country if they took something like a blue sky and made you afraid of it? So in my mind, drones and the use of Air Force to try to bend nations or people to your will is entirely counterproductive, because as long as that resentment exists on that way, the more successful you are, the more of your own problem you create. And I suspect shaming is very similar. I think it radicalizes the shamed people, and it has a similarly stochastic terrorizing effect on anyone who feels like they might have something in common with the shamed person. One thing that's been profound processing the aftermath of the Epstein files, other people have mentioned this, is how big an apology we owe to conspiracy theorists, because so much of what they were saying was closer to the truth than not. And it kind of put a sense of intellectual humility in me about listening to people and sometimes considering what they're saying at face value, instead of just disregarding it because I'm questioning their motives or don't want to hear it. One thing that's defined as a unifying principle, my political opponents, is this fear of cancel culture. And when we look at the president and what he represents to folks, he is an avatar of shamelessness, a person who cannot and will not be shamed. Any other human being would have resigned from office multiple times, any point over the last 10 years, shied away from public life. And yet, no matter how much we shame this man, the stronger he seems to grow. And I think for people who are terrified of cancel culture, he is a knight in shining armor to them. And his job, more so than any policy point, is just to irritate the shamers. And I can totally understand why people would not want to hear something like this, but it's very possible that the more we indulge in shaming, the more we are creating the very thing we are hoping to fight and defeat, like drones. And so as we sit at this moment where the president is breaking a very fundamental promise to his voters, not to get us entangled in foreign wars, we have a unique opportunity coming in the next few months to right the ship in a lot of ways. With enough of a majority in the legislature, we could impeach and convict the president. We could write a lot of laws that would make a lot of this conduct impossible in the future. We could reframe our election system. We could shore up healthcare. We could shore up voting rights. We can, address partisan gerrymandering. If we were to get enough on the same page and realize how many common interests we have. The only way that doesn't happen is as the president is shedding his supporters, we give them no place to go and remind them how much they resent us and are more scared of us than they are of him. I so understand and share the frustration, the vexation, the rage I've been seeing on social media as the president's supporters have started to defect. I am reminded of the story of the prodigal son. And that story was about two brothers, one of whom squanders his inheritance, living like a crazy person, and then comes back and is greeted with a banquet by his father. And the other brother's upset because they're like, hey, I've been doing the right thing, working the fields all this time. You didn't even give me a goat. Why does this guy, after blowing it all, come back to a banquet with a fatted calf? What is this? And the father responds, they were dead, now they're alive. Why shouldn't we celebrate that? And I don't know if there's an appetite left in the country to subscribe to a view, that was suggested through that parable. And I understand that, but it still needed to be brought to the attention that in these times, everything we do or don't do may or may not be one of the most important things that happens in the history of our country. We all have a chance to play a role. And some of the things will be very dramatic and very big, and some of the things may be subtle. Some of the things may simply just be restraint and not doing something, not shaming people, not further radicalizing those from whom we are divided. A lot of our divisions are real and persistent and will be with us, but a lot of them are illusory, and we are being manipulated by a capitalistic media culture that has found a way to profit off of rage and division and fear and anger. I think there's more to this country than that. And we're at an interesting moment of a gut check where we can decide, is this the United States anymore? It was never intended to be the agreeing states or the similar states or the like-minded states or the we all like each other states. It's just the United States. And if we want to preserve this republic and make this system better and protect our kids and leave something better for the future, we all have an opportunity and maybe a responsibility to be project managers and put the team first, put the union first, put the project first. I don't know if there's an appetite for that. I don't know if I am shouting into the wind or making a fool of myself. Just logging thoughts. Thanks for hearing and any energy you put into considering. I hope your Sunday is wonderful. Take care of yourselves.